We're going to spend a few moments talking about a recent issue that has not only impacted the city, but obviously a lot of our water customers, and that is a breach of our system by which we process credit card payments for those who are using a credit card in order to pay their water bill. And first and foremost, we need to say that we know that this has caused a lot of consternation and a lot of inconvenience on the part of our customers. And we are truly sorry about that. You know, we're here as public servants to serve you and to serve our community. And when you face these sort of obstacles and hurdles and just going about your everyday life, that is something obviously that cuts against the grain of what we as public servants are here to do, which is to serve you. And so again, we want to apologize profusely about that. And we want to explain a little bit about what happened, what we've done as a result of that, and sort of where we stand currently. And so joining us to talk about all those things is our Assistant Director of Water Utilities, Lance Overstreet. Lance, thanks for being with us.
Yeah.
So as of a few moments ago, we had some breaking news concerning what's happening with our payment process and the use of credit cards for people paying their water bills. Tell us what has happened here this afternoon.
Sure. Since Friday, when we first discovered the breach, we had actually taken that server completely offline to make sure that no other customers were affected by any kind of problems or vulnerabilities. And as of a few minutes ago, that server is back up and online, and so individuals can actually securely go back on, pay those bills using their credit cards, as well as we have reinitialized the credit card receiving capabilities here at the water billing office.
And so if folks want to do that, they can go to costatx.us/water bill. Now, Lance, you just mentioned that they can do that securely. How confident are we in the security of this new system that we're using in order to process credit card payments?
Well, what we have actually done is the original server that had the malware has actually been taken completely out of service, and not only that, an image sent over to our third-party vendor for analysis. But what we have done is we have actually rebuilt a new server on a newer platform, totally different platform, and that newer platform, we're being told, is much more secure than the old one. And not only that, we've actually run some tests on it. It's been scanned, all the patches have been put on that new server. And so we just wanted to make sure that when we brought the new server back up online, that people could confidently actually go in and utilize those methods, and we were very confident at this point that that's the case.
Now, you mentioned that the vendor who processes the water utility department's credit card payments suffered a security breach, and we learned about this on Friday. What can you tell us about what we know about the breach itself?
Sure. What we do know is that we had been notified by a banking institution and a couple of customers of some irregularities and charges on their accounts. We were notified of that Friday morning, and as soon as we found that information out, we immediately took action. We removed that server, took it offline, started working with our third-party vendor to try to remedy that. And so from that point on, what we know is that individuals who had paid using a credit card or a debit card could have been affected. We don't know yet to what extent, because we're still trying to analyze it to find out how long the breach was there. But essentially what had happened was an individual was able to install a malware onto that server that functioned as a skimmer that allowed that as people were using those cards and transmitting that information to our third party, they were able to intercept it and then use that account information then to gain access to people's accounts.
And so you mentioned about the scope of the issue. So at this point, we don't know potentially how many people were impacted or the time frame over which their information may have been breached.
Exactly. What we do know, Anthony, is that we have actually been working very actively with our third-party vendor prior to the intrusion to make sure that our servers had all the patches installed. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, that third-party vendor was on our servers scanning it for malware to make sure it was clean. And so we are fairly confident that it's a fairly narrow window of time that it may have been vulnerable. But at this point, we do not know if it was a couple of days or what that time frame is. And once that server has been analyzed by that vendor, they are going to be reporting back to us, and then we are going to be taking action by then looking back and seeing during those time frames who paid those bills, contacting them via mail to let them know that there was a breach, and so that this way they can be aware of that and be monitoring.
You know, we've been trying to very proactively communicate about what's going on and try to be as transparent as possible. We've made liberal use of our social media and our website, and the local news media has been great about reporting what's going on as well. And some people have asked, well, why haven't you emailed customers about what's going on? What can you tell us about that?
Sure. Up until just a few months ago, the water billing office didn't actually receive emails. So we just actually had phone contacts or addresses, and it wasn't until just a few months ago that we actually started asking people for emails to actually utilize as a method of contact. And so unfortunately, I would say that probably 90% of our customers don't have an email actually in the system for us to use. And then also too, because we don't have that populated, we haven't actually made an effort to make that available or to utilize that function. And so that's something that we will be looking into, is to those that we do have the emails, how can we contact them?
And do we have any sort of idea about when we might know some of the parameters about when this breach occurred, the time frame involved, and potentially the number of customers that were impacted?
Sure. The third-party company that's analyzing those have said that they may be able to have some info for us this week. Although it did happen this last Friday, realistically, because of the time frame it happened and it being over the weekend, they really haven't had a whole lot of chance to get to that server until Monday, and so they've only had it for a day or two. But we're confident that if not by the end of this week, it may be early next week, that we'll actually have some hard answers on those questions.
Now, which credit card transactions might have suffered some sort of vulnerability versus those credit card transactions that we positively know did not?
Sure. So the city water billing department receives credit card payments in a couple of methods. One is through the online, and it can be done through an automated process or a one-time. And then also too, we receive credit cards by swiping them here at the office here. And then we also receive credit cards via an automated system by phone. Now, the automated system by phone is completely standalone. It's a totally separate vendor, and we know that any of the automated by phone systems were not compromised. All of the other three that have to do with swiping here at the City Hall, the automated payments online, and the one-time payments online do route through that server. Now, we don't know yet exactly which ones may have been affected, but we do know that they could have all been vulnerable in that instance.
And so it's important that our customers know that, again, if you paid by phone, you are not susceptible to this vulnerability at all. And if you're interested in paying by phone, you can do that. It takes credit card information, of course. It's an automated system. And all you have to do is call 325-657-4323. So it's very easy to remember, 657-4323. So Lance, what are some ways now that people can pay with a credit card if they're interested in doing that again?
Sure. The system is completely back up and operational, so any kind of credit card method you may have used in the past, you can use now. What you may have to do, though, is if you were an account that was compromised and your bank has canceled that card, you will have to go back in and set that new card up for auto pay. You can still utilize the Pay Now function, you can use the phone system, and then also too, we have the other ways that you can do auto pay through bank draft. You can come in here to the annex, pay cash, check, and then also too, we have the convenience drop box that's right here at the annex as well.
And so I want to let folks know that he's talking about City Hall Annex, which is where our water department is located. The address is 301 West Beauregard Avenue, and the offices are open during business hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Mondays through Fridays. So if you want to pay in person, just come down to our offices and we will accept payments via cash, check, or credit card. What are some ways that people can pay without a credit card? And I may have just mentioned a few of those, but I'd like to reemphasize those. Sure,
yeah. If you don't have a credit card, or maybe you're a little leery of the credit card system with the recent breach, of course, through the local water billing office here at 301 West Beauregard, you can bring in cash, you can bring in check, cashier's checks. You can also too mail those bills in with a check as well, or a money order. And then also too, we have our convenience drop box, which you can also put checks or money orders in as well.
You mentioned about bank drafts. So are bank drafts in this instance susceptible to any sort of fraud?
No, it was anyone that had the bank draft set up with the routing numbers and things like that were not susceptible. That part was not a portion of what was skimmed, and it's a little bit different system, so they're safe.
So what can credit card customers now who may have made a recent payment, what can they do to protect themselves?
Well, what we're recommending and have since Friday is that if you had recently paid with a credit card, we're requesting that you very closely monitor your account. Any kind of charges that you see that are irregular or that you know you did not make, we're asking you to contact your financial institutions immediately, notify them so that they can actually cancel that card, block that card, and then also then go through the process with your financial institution to dispute those charges.
And so again, monitor your accounts. And one of the things that may be helpful for people to know is we've seen a lot of customers say that they've had some fraudulent charges, in particular from iTunes and from Uber. So if you see some iTunes and Uber charges, also please be aware. And as Lance said, if you see those charges, please contact your bank and or your credit card company in order to get those fraudulent charges removed from your account. Lance, were customers' private information, that is their social security numbers or their driver's license or any other identifying info, subject to risk during this matter? No,
this particular system was strictly the system that transmits those credit card information, and so no one's personal info in terms of their license, their driver's license, their social securities, none of that stuff was affected. And that's a good thing because you don't have to worry the long-term effect of someone setting up an account in your name and then possibly having those kind of remediation things. It was strictly just the credit card information that was skimmed during that payment process.
Would this vulnerability have in any way increased the amount on someone's water bill?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't change any of the billing amounts. It does not change the usage amounts. It was strictly a system that was routing for the credit card payment portion.
And so we've had a lot of questions about what we're planning to do regarding late fees and people who may have suffered a late fee because they weren't able to make their payment, or maybe their auto draft didn't occur as a result of this. How are we accommodating those folks who may have suffered late fees?
Sure. What we're doing, Anthony, is kind of a case-by-case basis. If you actually had a bill that was due and were unable to pay it through your normal method, what we're doing is just asking you to contact our customer service department, explain the situation to them, and then we're addressing that on a case-by-case basis.
And obviously, we know a lot of folks were upset about this, and with we understand that they have great reason to be upset. And you're very technologically savvy, so I want you to address this. Unfortunately, in our digital age, anytime you use a credit card and or the internet, there is a modicum of risk involved.
Sure, absolutely. And the reality of it is for a lot of people, this is not a new thing. It's a new thing to have it done at the water billing office, but many people, even within our own building and with those that I've worked with, have had their credit cards skimmed and breached through gas stations, through payments, through hotels, through all these other things where they're traveling. And it is an inconvenience and it's a frustration, and we understand that. But we also too know that that is kind of the age and what we live in with the internet and the technology, that is what people are out there trying to do. And we are taking efforts to try to make sure that we minimize that and don't repeat this for the city.
It's really a never-ending game of cat and mouse.
It is. And what's interesting is that we had just recently installed the latest patches on our server, even in this last week. And then a new vulnerability was exploited just a couple of days after those patches were installed. And so it is a cat and mouse game to where you're constantly updating and trying to prevent this, and there are people that are out there that they're constantly trying to get into those systems.
And you mentioned, even retailers as large as Target have suffered these sort of things. Someone asked on our Facebook page why we don't use a local company in order to process these payments. But this is a very specialized service, and this is a vendor that really specializes in providing that service to municipalities in particular.
It does, and the vendors that we have chosen are actually more adept at being able to handle municipalities and the volume that we deal with. And the reason the city doesn't house those things themselves is because we're trying to leave those things to the experts that do that on a regular basis, that have teams involved in trying to protect that data and things like that. And so, although we have a lot of questions as to why the breach occurred and how we can prevent it, the reality of it is had we not used a company that was as professional as it was, we could have had many, many more breaches in instances where this has occurred.
And so last question here, how secure do you feel in the system that we have in place at this very minute?
I think everyone is going to have some aversion it's been breached. Okay, should we, shouldn't we? What I can tell you right now is that the steps that we have taken are going to actually be more secure than what it was in the past. And even the steps that we're going to be looking at in the future, we are hoping to actually take that to the next level as well.
So we've been talking with Lance Overstreet. He is our Assistant Director of Water Utilities. If you have any questions about your account, we encourage you to call our Water Customer Service Office. You can reach them again at 657-4323. That's the same number that you can call in order to make a payment by phone. And if you have a question or concern, you're obviously welcome to post that on this video or any of the related posts that we have about this issue. We are doing our dead level best in order to address all your concerns and answer all your questions. And again, please accept our apologies. We appreciate your patience with this situation because we know it's caused a lot of inconvenience in your lives, and for that, we are truly sorry.